Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Coast to Coast here, formerly Rookie Outdoors for those who've been following for a little while. I just want to say it's great to see you all again. I know it's been a little while, but thank you so much for your patience. I'm going to be breaking my 30-second intro rule just this one time, I promise. We're going to be bringing it back and rolling it through. But since it's been a little bit, just wanted to provide you guys some updates and let you know what we're going to be doing today because my first video I ever released was going over how to hunt in Florida and going over the FWC website. And today we're going to do that. We're going to go deep dive into all the aspects, a lot of the questions that you all have in regards to quotas, applying, non-quotas, how to hunt, where to hunt, everything you can think of. We're gonna break down, and there's going to be this one long video, and I'm going to segment it out into smaller videos too, so that way if there's one specific section you want to just kind of click and follow on, it'll be available to you there. As you know, I have this thing around my shoulder right now. So right now in the process of recovery. I had a bicep surgery, unfortunately, so I'm a few months out from being able to go enjoy the outdoors to the fullest extent. So I thought, why not dive back into some of the questions you all have had, and let's and going over those things. And so it's just, again, if you have any questions in regards to anything we covered today, additional topics, let me know in the comments below. If this is your first time tuning in, or you've seen a couple of videos before, would love to see you subscribe and see you keep coming back. We're going to have some really great content coming out this next year, and really revamping things as I've been able to find a little bit better pacing in life to be able to support this. And so big thank you to a lot of my friends out there that have been pestering me and nagging me to go back into it. I've actually really loved going back and watching some of the old hunts with my friends, and also sharing those experiences with you all, and seeing some of your comments and requests and things like that. So as you guys have ideas, let me know in the chat below. Again, also want to say too, real quick before we get into it, Rucker 100, if you're watching this video, I'm wishing you a very speedy recovery. I saw that you had an accident recently, and just my prayers going out to you. So hopefully everything's going well with your recovery. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it, y'all. Alrighty, everybody, just to give you an overview of today's agenda on the topics I'll be covering. First and foremost, I'll give you an overview of FWC's website, what they cover, the different areas of information you can gather from this. We'll move from there to hunting regulations, whether it be hunting on private land, public land, know what you can and can't do out in the wilderness. From there, we will go into our WMA brochures and talk about what areas you can go to that are going to be closer to you, or areas of interest. This will also include things like national wildlife refuges and some different special hunts that are available. We'll move over to WMA harvest reports, so that way if there's a specific game species you want to pursue, you'll know what areas might be a little more fruitful for you to spend your time at. Also, in regards to this, we'll talk about limited entry hunts, which are your quota hunts, talking more about when you can apply, what you can apply for, as well as non-quota areas. So that way, if you aren't drawn for the hunt that you want to go on, you're still able to go pursue the hunt of certain areas, because not everywhere requires a quota. We'll move into hunter safety and education, which is very important, because in order to buy a hunting license or apply for areas, you're going to really need to make sure that you have a hunter safety and education. They won't let you purchase a hunter's license without this. We'll move also to public shooting ranges, so that way if you want to get ready for gun season, or let's say you want to go out with your friends and family to go shooting, this is a great resource to be able to locate areas to do that. And then lastly, we'll go ahead and walk through some examples on purchasing licenses. We'll talk about how to actually apply for a limited entry quota. I'll provide an example of that as well. And that way, you all are equipped with the knowledge to be able to hunt for this year and all the rest of the years for hunting. So without further ado, let's get into the overview. Alrighty, everyone. So first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and pull up Google, Safari, whatever you use, and your phone, laptop, and go ahead and just type in FWC into Google and hit enter. The first option you see there should be myfwc.com. So once you come to myfwc.com, you'll see this screen here, all right? And there's a lot of information that breaks it down Barney style as far as, what you might be looking for. The most important things that you're going to want to look into are going to be the hunting and license and permits here. Now, if you plan on doing other recreational activities in Florida, highly recommend checking out some of these other areas, but this video is more geared towards hunting. Now, there's also some good information under the Discover Wildlife and Habitat and Species Conservation tabs, as well as research too. But again, as far as getting started, these are the two things that you're going to really need to dive into a little bit more. So once you click into hunting, there we go. Once you click into hunting, you can see that there's a lot of different brochures on some of the topics that we talked about. So, you have your regulations, license and permits, etc. And towards the bottom, there's a lot of other links. For this video, we're not going to cover everything. So, it does make sense to go do some diving on your own to make sure that if there's anything you're curious about, you can learn a little bit more. I know that hunting bears in Florida is a topic that we'll definitely be covering soon, as it's a really exciting opportunity here very soon. But one thing that's really cool too is if you scroll down, you can see some of the different species of Florida that you can hunt and learn a little bit more about them. And Florida is really unique because there's just so many different wildlife and species that you can pursue and game that it makes it a lot of fun. But from this page, the most important thing that we're going to want to move to next is regulations. So let's go ahead and move over. So once you click into the hunting regulations, you'll come to this page here. And this page can be a little bit intimidating if this is your first time hunting in Florida or you just moved in from another state, because there's a lot of information and it might just seem like too much. But to break it down the best way possible, if you plan on hunting public land, national wildlife refuges, or areas that are accessible to the public, the best thing that I can recommend is going to check out wildlife management areas or national wildlife refuges that are by you that you might want to hunt, and just looking at their brochures, because they'll break everything down that you need to know about that area. A lot of this is more pertinent, I would say, to private hunting. If you're on private land or have questions about hogs, things like that, just because hogs are open year round on private land doesn't mean that you can go to any WMA and start blasting. But for the purpose of this video, I will go ahead and cover some of these topics real briefly, just so that way, you can at least have a little bit of a guide. But really take that rule to heart: is move to the WMA brochures and check out what their rules and regulations are. They also have a PDF download here that you can go into and click this. This is a good resource to be able to do that. And you can download that if you really want to look over everything bit by bit. Clicking into general information, you can see there's a ton of topics here. However, like I mentioned earlier, if you're going to be hunting on public land, just utilize the WMA brochure, and it's going to highlight all the major things that you need to know as far as like this information goes. I will highlight, like, for the trespassing section, Florida is a lot easier than some of the other states, like in BLM land, where it can be really tough to disseminate if you're on public or private land. For the most part, most WMAs that I've been on have cell phone service, so you can utilize Onyx, which, again, if you don't have Onyx, I highly recommend downloading it. They have some great features on there. But if you have questions on any of these, the best thing I can say is come here and check these out. Moving back to the hunting regulation page, I'm going to go ahead and skip to taking game, as hunter safety requirements will be covered a little bit later in this video. Undertaking game, again, this is going to really go over what the definition of take is, as well as some of the prohibited measures of takes are. So what I'll mention is that a lot of this is, again, more geared towards those that are hunting on private land, or maybe for some waterfowl hunting aspects. But if you need to learn more about that, you can come to this page, but most WMA brochures are going to highlight that. Coming back to the hunting regulations section, we'll cover over the hunting zones as well as a season date and back limits. But first, let me show you the map, because I think it helps paint a better picture before you go to the other section. You can see Florida is segmented by 4 different hunting zones, which is A, B, C, and D. And these zones, you can see that most of the counties on them are within a certain zone, but there's some like Pasco County that go from zone C to zone B. And you can see where those boundaries are and what marks them. But the main factor of these zones are the dates that you can hunt. So if you come over here to season dates and bag limits by zone, you can see that during zone A, they have an earlier season than all the other zones combined. And usually, the more higher you go in the panhandle, the later the season is. But if you're planning on hunting public land, this is a good way to be able to match your schedule to which zone might make sense to go hunt and scout more. If you're on private land, this will show you when you can go hunt on your properties. And you can also see more as far as deer, turkey, and other game animals here that are listed. Again, for those more curious about hog season, you'll have to see the WMA brochures themselves because hogs are not considered a game animal. But you can also come down here and see the bag limits for deer, possession limits, and a little more information on those. One thing I also want to note here at the top is that you can see the different seasons, and a lot of questions I get is what you can utilize during these seasons. So you can see during archery season, only bows can be used. During crossbow season, you can use bows, crossbows, and air bows. Muzzleloader gun season, you can see that muzzleloaders as well as other two can be utilized, and then general gun, typically all methods of take can be utilized to the left. So as you go progress through the season, it just unlocks more and more equipment that you can utilize. Now, the last section under the all about hunting, you can see is youth and family hunting opportunities. So this is going to be highlighted, as you can see, for like permitted hunts or waterfowl hunts. Usually, the youth season will have a day or two that are just dedicated to young hunters that are getting introduced. And so, if you have any children that you want to introduce to the outdoors, I highly recommend looking at some of these seasons. Please note that if you are utilizing these seasons to pull the trigger yourself, a lot of them will not allow for you to have the adult pull the trigger. It has to be the youth hunter. Now, the last thing that I want to note here is you can see we were looking at the deer section, but there's other areas that we can look at as well for different species. When it comes to gray squirrels, rabbits, wild hogs, raccoons, possums, skunks, nutrias, beavers, and coyotes, they may be taken year round by rifle, shotgun, pistol, muzzleloader, air gun, crossbow, or bow. However, this is 100% pertaining to private land. Don't plan on doing any of this at WMAs or national wildlife refuges outside of their respective hunting seasons. Okay, so again, this area might be a little bit confusing because a lot of people, again, disassociate what you can do on private land with what you can do on public. But that's why we're going to start moving over towards geared information on the wildlife management areas as well as national wildlife refuges. Coming back to the main homepage, we'll go ahead and go back to hunting and back to the regulations section. So again, this first portion that we covered is really more inclined for private land hunters. They do say some public lands, but honestly, I would just go straight to the WMA regulation brochures for those that want to hunt on public land. And the reason why is it breaks it out a lot more simply, in my opinion. So you come over here and you can see that the WMA pages will keep saying get brochures now, get brochures now. They'll have WMA finders. There's like a million different tools for utilizing searching WMAs. And you can also see there's different regions mentioned here that we didn't cover in the last section. So my recommendation is going to the WMA open and close status. And the reason why is it's going to show you this map here. Now, this map is going to show you all the Florida counties that do fall in with each region. Unlike Zone A, B, C, and D, these regions are a little bit easier to tell where you're going to be falling into. So for me, I'm in the Southwest region, and I want to know a little bit more about the WMAs near me. And you can just click down here to see all of these different areas that are highlighted, but you can see it's a little bit sporadic the way they have it on this page. So knowing this information, I can go back, scroll down, and now I know to click the Southwest Region WMA map. And this is going to pull up a PDF file that highlights very clearly the hunting areas within my region. So after taking a moment to review your respective region and know what WMAs are available to you there, you can now start doing some research into what areas you might want to go hunt at. So for me, I highlighted 141 Green Swamp, which is up here. So now I can go back to that page we're just on, go to Southwest region, and instead of clicking through every single one of these one by one, I have a better idea of what to research first. So you can see Green Swamp has two segments, Green Swamp and Green Swamp West, but let's start with Green Swamp. I click into this and you have a couple of views. So number one, you have the WMA brochure that has everything highlighted and you can break it down once you click into it. But you can also download a PDF file that looks like this. And once you open it up, you can send it to your phone, have it on you at all times, and you can see the information. So to break down how typically your wildlife management areas will highlight things is they'll number one show you if they're a quota or a non-quota. Now, a quota hunt requires you to pull a permit from gooutdoorfloridas.com, and we'll cover that at the end, like I mentioned, and even go through an example. If you were too late or you didn't pull a quota, that doesn't mean you necessarily can't hunt it. For this example, the archery season, they are going to issue 750 no cost daily quotas that are first come, first serve at the check in station. For general gun, you can see that it's only for the first 9 days that a quota is required for 750 hunters. And then after that, you are able to go there to the check-in station and hunt that area. So some WMAs aren't always going to necessarily require a quota. They'll provide a opportunity to hunt it first, which is always nice. So if you're really dead set on hunting an area, it behooves you to get that WMA permit, but you don't necessarily need it to go hunting. If you scroll down, it'll tell you the permit application. There's also some camping information too for some WMAs, and it'll go over the general area regulations. So again, if you plan on hunting that specific WMA, this is where you're going to want to really take a look into what you can or can't do, what things you might need, and so forth, as well as the licenses. You can also see the public access and vehicles to see if you can access certain areas. As far as tree stands, this is really important because most WMAs will let you put in tree stands as well as trail cameras. However, when you can put them in might vary. So some WMAs might allow you to bring a tree stand in a week before, and I've seen some that are only 24 hours before the hunt. And one quick story I will say, I actually had an incident where I went to a WMA where, because I thought it was standard for a week, and I went in 3 days before the hunt, and I actually had an FWC officer track me through the sand and have a talk with me. I never set up the tree stand, and they provided me a warning, but it just goes to show that you need to make sure to study these so that way you don't get hemmed up. So it can happen. Some of these areas will also have check-in stations or harvest reporting where you'll have to go provide your game to it, and they'll highlight those there. Um, as far as those that have dogs too, there are some WMAs that will allow for dog hunting, others that might allow you to do raccoon, squirrel hunting, etc. So make sure to follow those regulations there. And then the bag and possession limits, it'll tell you what the bag limits are for some of these species. Now, once you come down a little bit further, you can see that these are when these areas open up. So for wild hog dog season in Green Swamp, this is going to be available October 2nd through 5th and 9th through 12th. And here's what you're going to need for those. So you can see that for this wild hog dog, you need permit, stamp, and license requirements, which are management area permit. Legal to hunt, wild hog only. During archery, it'll highlight some of the same information, general guns, so forth, and it'll highlight again what you need to do. Now, one thing I'll also note during small game seasons, some of these might have regulations as far as what type of rifles or shotguns you can utilize. So there's some areas that are small game areas only, so you can't bring a rifle into it. You have to utilize a shotgun. Some WMAs are archery only, and this is where the research portion is going to come in handy. So going down further, you can see there's also information on fishing and frogging. Sometimes there are information on on duck hunting. And so duck hunting can get a little bit tricky there because if you're hunting within a WMA, you have to follow the WMA requirements, versus on top of the waterfowl requirements. And at the very bottom, they'll show you a map that you can utilize to navigate. So that way, when you go to that WMA, you know where the check-in station is, which roads you can access, and then go to Onyx to see what areas you might want to scout. So now that I've taken some time, I've done some research, and I know that Green Swamp has the animals I want to pursue, which are wild hog and deer. I now want to go check out the harvest reports in the past for this area. So you can do this by going back to the page that we were just at, which is the open close status of FWC offices. And I'll go to the WMA brochures again. And if you scroll to the bottom, here they have the WMA harvest reports. If you click into that, you can see the reports you can pull are numerous. So you can see they have by season, multi-year, multi-area, yada, yada, yada. The best one to go to, in my humble opinion, is by season, multi-year. And the reason why is I can choose the Southwest region. I can now choose gun season because that's what I'm interested. And again, you can see there's a ton of different information here that you can pull reports from. And I'm going to find Green Swamp. And I can now pull the years where they've harvested animals. So I'm going to take a look from 2020 all the way to the last hunting season, and I'm going to hit generate report. Now, doing this, you can see that there is a lot of information listed here, including how many bucks were taken, antlerless bucks, hogs, etc. So if I go over to the right, I can now see if this area is producing results for the game that I want to pursue. And I can see that there are a ton of game animals that are being taken out of here. And if you go further too, you can also check out other species that are being hunted to know what is offered in this WMA. Now, granted, I do want to say that just because your harvest report isn't looking too hot, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's 100% accurate. Obviously, there's going to be people that don't report it. Sometimes, if you look in the last season, it takes time for FWC to update this information into there. So this isn't a end all, telltale source, but it is a good indicator of if this area is going to be good for what I want to hunt. And it looks like this area is. So it's super helpful to be able to do that. You can also pull a CSV report if you want to go into Excel and break things down. I mean, you can break these down really, really broadly, and then on your Excel file, go into the research that you want to do. So lastly, on the public accessible hunting land available to you in Florida, the last part I want to talk about is wildlife refuges as well as military bases. If you go over to the hunting section and click the hunting handbook section, scroll down, you can see under hunting areas, they have information on this right here. If you click into it, you can see a list of some of these areas, and they're all going to be, again, different and draw you to a different page because these are federal lands. So if you go to like the Luxahatchee, typically you can scroll down or you have to do some digging on the website, but they'll have hunting brochures available. So that way you can know how to hunt there. A lot of them also will be available to draw on Go Outdoor Florida, which is mentioned a few times already. But again, these are some other things to put in your back pocket for a hunting land in Florida. Alrighty, everyone. So we've covered a lot of ground as far as where you can hunt for public land opportunities, as well as how to go hunting for your private land opportunities. But we're going to start rounding down to acquiring your licenses and permits. And I mentioned earlier in this video that obtaining your hunter safety is really imperative. However, there are some workarounds. So if you go to the hunting tab and go to hunter safety, you can see that it mentions here that anybody 16 and older must have a hunter safety course before purchasing a license. However, there is a deferral from the hunter safety course that you can acquire. And this is going to be for, if you want to bring a friend with you to go hunting, they can fill out some paperwork to be able to showcase that they're hunting with somebody that does have their hunter safety course. So if you want to bring somebody, you can request a deferral, but I would strongly recommend for anyone that really wants to get into hunting to complete this. And honestly, if you're going to go take somebody out in the woods, it's a good idea to have their hunter safety education. So there's a lot of information here you can click into to learn a little bit more as far as education opportunities. But the most helpful that I found is going back to the hunting page and clicking here to the hunter safety course. If you scroll down, they'll provide the online courses and field day options, and most of them do have a cost, but there's two sections of it. There is the online course, and then you also have to go to a shooting range to make sure that you're proficient. And so this is where you can go ahead and complete those. And then once you have that completed, you'll be able to upload it into your Go Out Outdoor Florida account and start purchasing your hunting license. Now, one other note I will mention as well is if you are from another state and have completed your online hunting course, like I completed mine in Oregon, you can also make sure to note that in the portal as well. The last thing that I'll cover before going over to licensing and permits and drawing for quota hunts is the public ranges that I was talking about that are managed by FWC. So you can click into here at the bottom under the hunting section, and you can see in the red dots, these are all available hunting ranges, and you can see what is available, and you know that they're supervised. So this is a great way for beginners as well as those with youth to go to. And as you can see, there's quite a few available. So let's move to the licenses and permits. Under this tab, there's two areas that are going to be important for you to know. So number one is ordering a recreational license, which we'll go to in a minute. But first and foremost, the limited entry and quota permits will show you how this system works. So again, quota hunts are giving people the option to hunt a WMA before other people, or some WMAs only allow quota hunted hunters to be able to go out there. So that way they can manage how many hunters are on certain areas. So some WMAs are going to be more desirable than others, as you'll see, or certain hunting opportunities will be. So you can apply for these, and they do a lottery draw that is based around preference points. So preference points, as you can click here, basically allow you to stack the odds in your favor. So they don't guarantee you success, but if you have more preference points, the more likely you are to acquire a certain hunt. And if you are unsuccessful in a certain phase, like let's say phase one archery, I apply for some areas and I'm not awarded them, you'll get a preference point. So that way, the next time you apply, you'll have a little bit more odds in your favor so you can be able to stack them. Now, if you would like to as well, you can also forego your option to apply for WMAs to stack up your preference points. So if you are really wanting to hunt a certain area, you can go ahead and forego that hunt and just stack the deck on your preference points. Now, there's some more information here you can look onto, but this is how they do that drawing. So again, you can either apply as a group or an individual. I recommend applying as an individual. Typically, they'll provide you an opportunity to hunt with one or two other people. But again, if you want to do that with people, you can as well. Now, another good piece of information to learn are the application periods. So if you click into here, you can see there's a lot of different hunting opportunities available. Now, I will say first and foremost, when it comes to alligator hunts, this is a completely separate topic. They don't have preference points. It's a complete random draw. But if you go over to the quota hunt permits here, this is when you can start applying for your quotas and know when these phases are going to happen. Now, just because you aren't issued a permit during a phase, they do have the option for reissue applications. So sometimes if you go into the app, you can see that hunters may not be able to hunt a certain quota, so they'll return it, and it opens the door to be able to apply for those applications. And so it goes into another draw. Moving over to ordering recreational licenses and going to apply for these quotas, there are a few ways you can do this. For purchasing license, you can go to tax collectors' offices. You can also call these numbers, etc. But I highly recommend just clicking the website here. So once you are on the main website of gooutdoorsflorida.com, you can click up here in the left corner You can also access this on your mobile phone. They actually have an app in the store that's easy to use, and then you can log in. Now, to know if you have an account, if you have ever purchased a license before at Walmart in the past, you have an account. If you've never purchased any licenses in Florida, you're going to need to create a new account. Once you log into your account, you'll see at the very top there are four options to be able to choose from. The far left, this is where you'll purchase your licenses. The next to it on the report harvest, this is where you will harvest certain game species that need to be reported. Then you'll have your apply for limited entry and quota permits. This will also include your reissues. And then on the far right is going to be your leftover permits. So if there are some permits that were not, drawn because there's excess, this is where you can do that. So once you pull up the limited entry quota applications, this screen will pop up. Now, because we're in the heart of phase one, you can see there is a ton of options available. Now, over here to the right, these are ones I've already applied to. So I'm going to use the Wild Hog phase one as an example. Once you select the hunt that you want to apply for, you can see that you have some additional options here. So you can apply as an individual, create a group, join a group, or you can apply for points only. So again, if you want to start stacking your deck, you can just apply for points only. I'm going to apply as an individual. So now that I've clicked apply as an individual, I can see that I have multiple choices to choose from. So under here, I'm going to put my number one choice all the way down to my fifth. Now note that you don't have to fill all of these out. So if you are dead set on a certain WMA and you don't want to be drawn for something, in case if you aren't drawn it, you're given preference points, it's always a good option to know what you want to do before you apply. So that way you can set yourself up. Now I'm going to take a look here and just choose the Rich Lombard unit as my number one. It'll show you the hunt dates here that it is available to you. So if this date does not align with your schedule, don't apply so that way other people can have the option to hunt it. Once I click next, you'll see that this was going to list your order. So for this hunt, you can see that my preference points are one for this. These are my choices. It's going to show me my dates. And so you can hit finish and check out and just go ahead and close this up, or you can hit submit and apply for another application if you have multiple you want to go through. So that way it's a little less tedious. When you are ready to process your final order, you'll see here that you have to click two sections. Now, if you go to the far right, it'll say amount due. Most of these applications are free. However, there are some quotas out there that will have an application fee. So even if you apply for it, you will have to pay for that, regardless if you're awarded it. And then for some, they will have a fee for if you are awarded that. Most of it will be more for national wildlife refuges, but just always make sure to check the top right corner in case you're only looking for free hunting opportunities to apply for. So overall, that is the process for, again, all the online research that you need to do, being able to purchase the licenses you need, and acquiring the quota hunts that you might want for going out and hunting in public land. I hope that this video was very informative and helped showcase the process. Like I said, there's a ton more resources out there that I didn't cover just because I wanted this video to be a reasonable length. So again, if you have any questions, make sure to let me know in the comments below. Always happy to take a look here and hope this was overall helpful. If you have a second, would love for you to be able to click that subscribe button. Thank you for coming again to Coast, and we'll have some more videos out here shortly. Thank you.